Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. Esoteric researcher Jonny Enoch is back with us. Coming up next. Welcome back, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, my co-host is Victoria Munday, and down in the chat room, Alina moderating the chat. We have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. My cheeky Moravian brother, Jonny Enoch, is back with us. He's an esoteric researcher. You probably recognize him from Mystery Teachings on Gaia TV, also on the Alaska Triangle. Jonny, I think you've been on almost every episode of the Alaska Triangle. And, just a fantastic, great friend. We toured Egypt together earlier this year. Jonny, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you both for having me back on the show, and thanks for the kind words at the beginning. I don't know what graphics team you used to put together that really cool title page there where I had the black outline. Was that at Hathor's temple there in Dendara?
That was Dendara, Hathor's temple. That was me using my kind of moderate Photoshop skills.
I love it. I always think you guys got great graphics on the show. So
thank you. Appreciate that.
I'd say that they're above moderate skills. But yeah, that was a great tour we did in Egypt. It was a lot of fun, and it's always great hanging out with you, Mike. I will also say that the Alaska Triangle, my favorite episodes are the ones that have you in them. I think that you are actually out there with the instruments and measuring things and not just sitting in a chair, that you were bringing the action to it. But you also have a new book out about the Alaska Triangle, which I'm hearing
right.
Everybody's been talking about to me. And if people watching this right now or listening haven't picked up the new book you wrote about that, they really need to get it, because nobody's ever done what you did there. You really put all of that together, all the mysteries there.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And thank you so much for writing the foreword to that book. So, it was. I don't really want to get into the book because it's your show, Jonny. But it was a real treat writing that, getting back to a place I'd spent 3 years. That show really connected us. We'd already been connected on social media, but it really kind of developed our friendship, and we've done a lot of things together since then. So
absolutely, absolutely. Looking at the shadow dimension, and one of the things with all of these different tie-ins to this work, as we look at the Alaska Triangle, we see the mysteries there, that we really can look back to the ancient world in things like Egypt. When we think about the idea that we have this culture of pyramids on both sides of the Atlantic, you can go over into the Yucatan, or you can go up into any area in the world, even China or Indonesia, or wherever you're looking. There's no doubt, that same sort of ancient civilization where we had this great global dissemination or great continental diffusion of cultures that we start to find there in Alaska when we talk about, underground pyramids, we talk about giants, we talk about energy vortexes, and there's so many countless stories that are fascinating from there. And so that's why I think the way that you look at these things, Mike, the empirical data, the way that you mapped it all out and put it together, that must have been incredibly time consuming.
Well, I mean, yeah, it took a couple years to put together. Ever since I got connected on to the show, since they reached out, and so it was fascinating just to kind of re-explore and bring that information together. And really, Jonny, connecting with you on a number of these different projects, like you mentioned, the Shadow Dimension. You had input into that, and bringing some of this esoteric knowledge to the forefront, which I got to see firsthand while we were out in Egypt. And I'm just going to go straight to Edfu. And I have it's like 11, 12-minute video. I have it in the special features section of the Connected Universe portal of you and Muhammad Ibrahim back and forth talking about the legends of Atlantis and the writings there at Edfu Temple. It's just absolutely amazing.
You're way too kind with your words, and I appreciate that. That's, for me, the fascination I have with the esoteric is that there are ways that we can look at our ancient past, that there have been folks on this planet that knew that we lost things due to cataclysms and great destructions, and we've lost touch with our knowledge. And there had to be a way to encode it. There had to be a way to put this in a type of symbolism so we could look at the breadcrumbs on how to retrace our steps. Where did we go wrong? Where are we headed in the future? That's a very important question we have to be asking ourselves right now. And I think that's why we can't dismiss our ancient religions, because they should be treated like a science. And so that really is the secret, and that's the importance of this. And I believe that's why so many people, so many of your viewers are looking at this right now, and they're wanting answers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think there's something inherent within us that knows that there are these secrets and there are these mysteries to our ancient past, these lost civilizations that we're just getting little inklings of here and there. And it seems like the mainstream is trying to really downplay all of this knowledge that's out there for us to gain. But we know better. There's something in us that knows better. And it's guys like you, Jonny, that are bringing that knowledge to the forefront.
Well, the same could be said about you, Mike. You're bringing this knowledge to the forefront, and we all have a way. And Victoria, you're doing an amazing job, bringing this knowledge out to people, and you guys are getting people to ask these questions and looking at it. But we're all great messengers right now. We are relaying a message that we might not realize it, that something that's fascinating us or something that we go through, that we have a means to teach it to other people or to pass it on, or we don't even know where it's coming through to us. But again, we're picking it up like a signal, like a television station. And so what we have to do right now is use all of our pieces of the puzzle and put them together. And again, I don't mean to bring it back over to your work again, because we were just talking about that. But when you start looking at the shadow dimension, this is something that people really need to look at, because for years and years, folks are talking about that. Hey, I saw a shadow being, or this shadow came in and talked to me, or what do these experiences mean? And, the ancients knew about this, and we've known for a long time that there are these other dimensions and worlds and things around us, observing us, and we're interacting with them. And in the future, I believe we're going to have a very good understanding of that, because quite simply put, the science of today was the magic and superstition of yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. We're being told right now when we talk about these topics that it's just pseudoscience. Well, the science of today was pseudoscience back then. And so, yeah, it's kind of this ongoing cycle. We find out something, we discover something. Others want to downplay that as pseudoscience, or it's, magic or what have you. But yet it comes out later that, no, this is true. Even things like, Nikola Tesla and the cell phone. He's talking about, we'll have the knowledge of the world in our pocket. And there it is, 100 years later, there it's in our pocket. And so
he did. And Tesla is a great example of that. With him, people like to credit Marconi as saying that he gave us the radio. Really, it was Tesla. And Tesla figured out how to go wherever we wanted to go with that signal, whether it's under the ocean, out in space. That's the future of our communications. We're going to go quantum with it. And the spirituality and technology are going to become indistinguishable. And I'm not talking about the transhumanism sort of thing. I mean, there definitely is that sort of idea going on at certain levels, but I'm talking about the idea that as we evolve further as a species, we're going to realize things about who we are and how we operate in this world around us, where things that you've written about, like the shadow dimension or what's there in the Alaska Triangle, that there's a purpose for it. So, for example, on the show, we've talked about Ivan Sanderson in 1972 writing about vile vortices. We've talked about these ley lines. Well, we know these ley lines that are intersecting all over our planet. NASA's looked at it. We can look at the fact that these temples and pyramids and obelisks and sacred sites have all been built alongside this, and there's a transmutation of energy, so to speak, how it's distributed. And so what is around us? Is it plasma? What we've called dark matter? I tend to think that our ancient alchemists knew how to tap into that as a possible another type of spiritual technology, so to speak.
Yeah, and going back to Tesla, was he just really rediscovering knowledge that our ancient ancestors had? With his tower, was that really just was he basing it off of principles of perhaps the pyramids, if those were power plants, and tapping into that earth energy that you have the telluric currents and the ley lines and what have you? Was he just rediscovering what ancient peoples already knew?
In a way, I believe that we're all just continually rediscovering things, and it's very cyclical. But with him, I believe he had a lot of help. He tells us over and over again that, he said that his brain is like a receiver in the universe. It's receiving things. He himself believed he was receiving contact from other places. As you know, I know that you've, shared memes on the Connected Universe portal and your sites, which you guys are doing a wonderful job of bringing people into that community. And I really love the fact that you're sharing the Tesla stuff on there as well. But for that, there's a lot of people like Tesla out there that receive downloads and messages. We think about Srinivasa Ramanujan, when we think about the calculus stuff that came out, string theory. Here we have this young Indian mathematician who's dreaming up these formulas. You got your Einsteins, you got people that are getting these multiple messages in their dreams and thoughts here. It happens again and again. Have you looked at the Coral Castle stuff?
Oh, yeah. Edward Lee Scanlon. Yeah, that's absolutely fascinating. What had he discovered that, and he said that he had discovered how the ancients built the pyramids. And I always wonder about, after he passed, did the government grab that information? Does anybody really truly know how he did that? Because he talks about, or witnesses talked about, he had these cones. And of course, there's that black box that was on top of the tripod. How did all that work?
Exactly. So, there's so many of these ancient secrets that are being rediscovered. And some of that we discuss even on the show, Mystery Teachings on Gaia. So I did this episode. I don't know if you caught it. It was on the ever-burning lamps. Have you ever heard of those?
Yes, that was fascinating. Yeah.
Thank you. That episode, that was accumulation of a lot of different research that I had done over some time. Oh, great. Thanks for bringing it up. So
absolutely.
With that, the ever-burning lamps, this is an amazing ancient technology that we have had lots of these records, over 170 medieval records about them that were written, that they found them burning sometimes for thousands of years. Even on the Appian Way there in Rome, there's a lamp burning, and there is a perfectly preserved body next to it that's burning of Cicero's daughter, and in this strange, transparent liquid that looks like she could have just died, hours before, and it just continues to burn. Or you go into these other places, in Syria or in Egypt above the temples, or any of these countries that we find these ever-burning lamps that have been lit there. We have to ask ourselves, how did they do it? Because we can't fully explain, how that would be possible. Some of the theories are that they could have had electrical sources. It could have been a kind of a mercury concoction, maybe something that you would find like a napalm, where it's a special mixture of things that they would be using, just like the priestess of Bacchus did in Rome. But other theories we have is that when you go back into what the alchemist Fulcanelli said, he starts talking about the fact that, we can tap into a field of force. And outside of our main elements, there was a hidden element that the alchemists taught about called Azoth, which is sort of like this, maybe it's plasma, it's another source of drawing in from this multi-dimensional capacity of maybe an energy source. And it's very interesting that these were associated with sacred sites, places of the mystery schools. Helena Blavatsky said in her travels that she had found these, these ancient Buddhist temples and her travels, whether it was China or Japan. And so why was that kept such a secret? Why is it in the same places we find the secrets of these? Let's say you go up into Tibet, they knew how to even move large blocks using, essentially like certain musical instruments and using sound and vibration, which I believe the ancient Egyptians knew about: sound, frequency, vibration. So these folks of the ancient world, they had all kinds of means of tapping into these things, of secrets that we've lost today, as you've rightfully mentioned, with Tesla rediscovering this. And I do believe that, when the time is right, we're going to have even more of this knowledge come to us.
Now, were they actually lost, or do you think maybe they were suppressed and eventually we're going to come back to it, like you said? Because if it's suppressed, it doesn't fit the narrative that someone is wanting to present. They want their own narrative out.
Well, I think it's a bit of both. That's a very good question, Victoria. I think it's a bit of both. I think we lost a lot of this sort of knowledge and technology and abilities at certain points. And you might look at it today, like we talk about UFOs. Now, we know that there are folks in the know that know exactly what's going on when we talk about extraterrestrials. The governments of the world are working hand in hand with them. China's working hand in hand with them. There's no doubt about it. If you look at the 80 million empty apartments that have been built, I have it on very good account that you might say that those aren't meant for humans. So you might find that we might be moving into a more hybridized civilization in the future one day. Let's just speculate that. I have it on good account that from people I've talked to in the past, like the Honorable Paul Hellyer, the former Canadian Defense Minister of Canada, who's now passed away, that when I got to talk to him, he told me directly when we were meeting up that he said, that the extraterrestrials are on our military bases. They're working with us, and they look just like us. And so we know that folks know about that, but why don't they talk about it? Well, because there's a huge advantage to not sharing, perhaps, some of the technologies or some of these inside things. And there's a certain narrative that folks that are, want to hold on to control or power might have. But I think in the future, we're going to evolve beyond that.
Mm-hmm. I think we're already there. There's so many people, and not to use the term, it's being used so many. Oh, here comes a cat. But it's over you. I hear him jingling.
Not your cat.
It's my cat husband, Toby. You missed it. We had a civil service a couple of weeks ago, Johnny. Anyway, he's my life partner. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, where was I going? Oh, people are now awoke or waking up, and now they're a little bit more curious. But people who are trying to control the narrative, or there's no nice way to put it, dying away, going away. Just
but here's the interesting thing: the universe has a very strange way of using people in all areas to bring about change. And, as we move in this collective consciousness, we might have all these different ways of looking at things. The changes that we're going through right now and what we'll go through in this decade and those ahead, there's going to be incredible times of human ingenuity and beautiful and amazing, remarkable things that you're going to witness. There's going to be some things that are going to be challenging as we go through growing pains. Even the world by 2024, I believe, is going to be unrecognizable. Yes. There's going to be things by the end of this decade that are going to be strange. And at first, when these things happen, we might point fingers at certain people, or we might be arms in the air because of certain, changes in the world and how our weather patterns will go and how we consume food and what that looks like. But ultimately, we will move to a period that will be better for humanity as we're in this new age of Aquarius. Mm-hmm. So, again, I was just talking to Jay Widener about this, is that we're not out there, trying to endorse things by pointing them out in the world and say, hey, that's really great that this is happening right now, or what's happening, people are up in arms about this thing or the other. But ultimately, when that happens in our histories, when we see that kind of change, that humanity starts to shift, and we're getting ready for a more futuristic world.
We are, because even my daughter will ask something and I'll explain something to her, and she's like, really? And then she'll tell her friends. And so now we have like a little community of younger adults, if you want to call them that.
I love that. It's opening up.
Yeah. So they're starting to embrace, maybe things always weren't, black and white, and it wasn't always perfect before, but there's a new way of doing things now. So hopefully, and, watch out for February 2nd next year.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. Yeah, repeat.
Pluto's returned. Pluto's return. Watch out for that. Yeah.
I'm from Pluto, and I've been here. I don't really talk about return.
You're the messenger of death?
No, when I was in third grade, I used to tell kids I was from Pluto.
Hey, in the ancient world, they would light up a lot of different offerings to Pluto and all the lamps. So, you must be doing something right there. Plutonian.
There you go. There you go. Well, let me ask you, Jonny, since we've kind of gone down the road here a little bit on UFOs, extraterrestrials, that sort of thing. One of the things that fascinated me about Egypt was, right there in plain view, all the references to Stargates. And while we were there, you guys kind of pointed out the area in which there was supposed to be a Stargate in what I guess is known as Egypt's Area 51. So
yes,
I'm curious if there's any more information about that. What's maybe going on with it? Is it active? Are they using it? Is this something that maybe we could see more active Stargates in the future?
Okay, so let me just start out by saying I'm going to give a bit of a caveat or a disclaimer here that it's interesting that when I'm talking to certain people or even online, there's been comments where there's Egyptologists or something present. They snicker and they laugh at the term Stargate. And they'll be like, well, you must have been watching too much SG-1, the show. And so the thing is that this is one of the reasons why I think that what we would call Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, all those sort of places, the great antediluvian prehistoric civilizations that are connected around the world using these ancient forms of technologies. I believe they all had references to stargates and doors. Whether you're up in Peru that we were talking about before the show, you look at Amaru Maru, it looks like a doorway, a keyhole into the mountain. You look over into Indonesia, you look over into the Yucatan, wherever you go in the world, you're going to see this iconography that looks like a doorway you can go through. Or a portal, a stargate. Even in masonry, they have the Royal Arch degrees. Egypt has this incredible mentioning of it in many places, as you mentioned. And Muhammad, is now, there you go. You got the symbol there for the walking through with the foot in the Stargate. Muhammad, he'll look at this and he's a big believer of this. Now he says, yeah, they must have had that. Now, what's really interesting about this is that this takes the idea of Atlantis, which, remember, it's a Greek story. The Greeks called it that. The Greeks, they give us the story of Atlantis, but they get the story from Egypt, as you know.
Right.
And so when he went to Sanchis of Sais, so Sanchis went and talked to the priests in Sais, which is ancient Egypt. And so he goes and gets the story, and he learns about it from there. But we get this idea that Egypt was a great part of Atlantis, of this great civilization that had all these abilities. They were so advanced. I believe that this was a civilization that was not just on Earth. I believe it was connected across the stars. And perhaps when we're told, there were 7 cities of Atlantis, well, perhaps these 7 areas, rather than be this classic map we see drawn where there's like water and then there's all these islands splitting out with a circle in the middle of it, perhaps, yes, they were a seafaring people with elongated skulls at some time, as we've seen the depictions of Osiris of ancient Egypt, where he's a giant with an elongated head. But what we can look at the idea of is that why not look at these people as having this connection where they were moving across the stars? You could have a connection to Mars. You could have a connection to Orion, which Osiris is connected to, as well as, that area of Sirius, which was very important to them. And if you look at what Graham Hancock and Robert Bauval were saying about the mapping out of this sort of archaeoastronomy, of looking at the mapping out of the alignment of the pyramids and whatnot, how we see this alignment to these groups. Well, wherever we kind of go, we see this connection to the stars and star systems all around the Egyptians, which is a wonderful kind of enchanting thing you see with the hieroglyphics and all that. So I just think that these folks had a means of coming in there, whether that was transporting the Ka or the light body there or stepping through the doorways. And when we were there, we were talking about the monoatomic gold, or as the Greek Septuagint Bible calls it, the bread of the presence, or manna. We've talked about this, I think, before. Yeah, these white cakes that they were eating, that if those of you watching this have ever heard about alchemy, this is kind of an upgrade to the body, perhaps the DNA, it's a very interesting sort of process that these folks would have had that kind of gave them that key to step through these stargates of when they're active. But to go back to your original question, you asked me if this Egypt's Area 51 was still active. Well, as it's been told to me by not only people that we could say have a military background, but also involved in the areas of archaeology, antiquities, they'll tell you that confirmed there is an area right beside Abu Sir and Abu Ghurab. And this area is called Zayat El Aryan. And Aryan to them just means the naked place. Well, what's really interesting, if you guys Google this, if you go on Wikipedia right now and just start looking this up, what you'll find is that this area has a very impressive unfinished pyramidal complex there. And nobody's entered it since really the 1950s. And it's very heavily guarded by foreign military, our guys. And what you see is that it's got an area underneath it, a subterranean complex that is the size of New York City. And aircraft can come and go in through the top of it without being seen. Now, keep this in mind that, what you'll hear from, if you go out for dinner with some of the folks in the know in Egypt, which we've done before, and, just the chit chat, is that anything of real significance that's found, there's a good time period before you hear about it. And so, if there's an area like a new discovery or a tomb, like, oh my God, look, they just made this new discovery. You can best believe that that wasn't just some random discovery that some girl accidentally stepped into later on. That's usually been intricately, gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and things have been, sanitized and removed with laser precision, especially underground stuff, right?
Yeah, well, we kind of saw that at Dendara with that new crypt that they had opened up. You could very plainly see that there were fresh chisel marks where they were removing blocks. Where did those end up?
Absolutely. If you see anything that's really significant, a lot of that gets, popped out. And it's not because anybody wants to be malicious about it, but quite simply put, anything of that lost ancient technology, which you're going to find a lot of it under the Sahara. They're still finding it under there. The other place that you're going to find a lot of lost ancient technology is in the Gobi Desert. But in that area, with all the lost ancient technology is essentially, when we look in Zayat El Aryan, I believe it's one of the last really active ones. And what I mean by that is how it's been explained to me is that the folks at the top of antiquities and other areas, they know this stuff is real. They know that Egypt has stuff that really, makes them scratch their head, but they don't know how the hell to explain it to the public. They have no way of saying, hey, this is a Stargate and whatnot. But from what I've heard is that there's these multicolored kind of array of colors coming up out of the ground. Looks like an aurora borealis, and they don't know what the hell it is. And it's part of that place. But again, no one's allowed to enter into that area. Even if you're the best archaeologist or Egyptologist, they won't let you in to examine that unfinished pyramidal complex. So think about that.
Do you think it's any accident that it's on 30 degrees north?
No. I mean, look at Area 51. Mm-hmm. Look where that's at. That's on the 33rd parallel, right? Just like Disneyland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Victoria's on top of all the parallels.
That's me. That's all I do.
Well, you have to be. And by the way, everybody, get Victoria's new books that she just put out. She's got these new coloring books, the Esoteric. What is it? The Esoteric Development Books by Victoria Monday?
Oh, I wish. No, it's my main goal was to try and make the esoteric and paranormal mainstream. So, when Mama's coming over, you don't have to go hide the books real quick. You're like, oh no, let me put my books up. You can just leave them out.
I thought, at the beginning, I thought that you had these new coloring books out, to get in touch with Pythagoras, coloring the triangles. So,
well, there paranormal activities.
There's so much to do with the triangles. The triangles are the building blocks of life, 11, 22, 33. That's, I could go on.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. You gotta love triangles.
Yeah. But, if you start simple, just color, just to get their brains open a little.
Absolutely.
So much information can come flooding in then.
I think that's wonderful. It's a great idea. And with that, that brings it back to Egypt again, though. I mean, speaking of triangles and pyramids and whatnot, when we were up in the Great Pyramid, up in the King's Chamber, Mike Ricksecker was there, and he made a great discovery up there, didn't you, Mike, with the sarcophagus?
That was, and I have there it is.
I just want to say I'm not jealous at all. Okay, I'm just not.
Yeah, and you filmed that, Johnny. Yeah, that was absolutely fascinating. Just the observations of the backside of this, what they call a sarcophagus, but really it's just, you could call it a coffer. And what I did the entire rest of the time that we were out there, Johnny, is anytime that we came across a sarcophagus, especially there at the Cairo Museum where they had a ton of them, I was taking a look at the construction of those sarcophagi to see if they were, similar to this. And every single one of the other ones that we came across were basically, you had the lid come, straight down, where this one, it very, very clearly comes in and slides in from the backside. So it's whoever designed this and created this box, it was not the same people that created all the other sarcophagi that we're finding throughout Egypt. Somebody else.
Right, and there's definitely different uses for these. Like if you go and you look at the Serapeum, and you see that there's a giant granite box in there, of course, that we take a closer look at. I believe any of these giant boxes that you see, that they had a purpose for it. And you and I have discussed this before. I mean, we've talked about the granite boxes and what's granite composed of, like silica. And we have this idea like silicon microchips, that it's a greater conduit for electromagnetic energy and insulator, in fact. And so you see this, that there's a great means, almost like an energy grid. And that's why I believe that some of these boxes had a different effect, if you will, to transmat things, or you might say, give you a regeneration. In this particular case, I think that the Great Pyramid had many different functions. I think, we can speculate today. We can say stuff like, one theory, I love the work that Chris Dunn's done on the Giza power plant. Yeah. And of course, we can look at the idea that they could have functioned with water pumps. We can see that they could have functioned as like, of course, somewhat of like a portal system, or for, moving out of there like a Stargate, perhaps. So they could have more than one function. I believe they had many functions and also connected us around the planet. But that box being up there really makes me think that, was it there to transmat you or transport you or do something? It might have had a function like that.
It could have. And just even taking a look at the Queen's Chamber, because this also fascinated me, was that niche that's back there. And I've heard stories, and I've read articles where the mainstream basically tries to say that there was some sort of maybe statue or idol that was placed in there. But as you get closer to it and you take a look, you see this blatant scorching and vitrification of the stone. I mean, there's no question about it that there was an extreme heat source that affected the stone there.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Speaking of which, there was a really cool experience I had recently. Zuzana and I, we were out here in Budapest, Hungary here, because now I live in Europe full time. And we were there, and there's a VR place, a virtual reality place. And I'd never tried VR like this before, because I'd tried the VR goggles, and to be honest with you, I was really underwhelmed in the past when I tried VR. And so we went in there, and I heard really cool things about when I was walking by. We were downtown, and we see this sign about Egypt. They have some Egyptian experiences. And my God, these VR parks, if you get a chance to go to one of them, like a really high-end one, it's so impressive and hyper-realistic that you experience things. Well, this was I think it was called the Dark Side of Anubis. And so you go in there, and we put on the backpack, and you have a torch and everything. And you go in there, and it's like going on the Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland. When you go to the Indiana Jones ride in Disneyland, you know how they start the ride. I don't know if you've been to that one, Victoria, in California, where they start the ride off, and you're watching this black and white film, first of all. And they're going, they're getting you ready about, hey, Mr. Jones, you're getting ready to go. Well, it was the same thing for this. You walk in there and you have the goggles on. You have this torch-like thing. You have these straps on your hand. There's a big backpack that's powering this thing. And it's so hyper realistic, the rooms you're walking through. And as we go in there, they start off the film saying Egyptologists believe there's secret chambers that come out of the queen's chamber and lead you into the underworld where you have to rescue a queen, who in this case, was probably like a Hatshepsut suit or something. So we go in through there, we enter into the secret chambers of the Great Pyramid in the game, and it's so crazy realistic. I couldn't believe how hyper realistic. And we're walking together. And as we're there, you got like a real torch thing. You're unlocking keys and amulets. You end up getting the armor of Horus and Sekhmet's coming. And some of the platforms are shaking below you. So it feels like you're going down shafts and elevators and heading down to the Egyptian underworld. But I love the fact that they made the big mystery, not about the king's chamber, but it was all about the queen's chamber. That was the mystery entrance, right?
That's pretty
sounds cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. If you get a chance to go to one of them and see if you can check that out.
Okay. I'm there.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So we have some questions coming in from the chat. So I do want to get to some of these. This one is actually from our chat moderator, Alina. She says, my question for Johnny.
Hello, Alina.
Do you personally think it's possible we have extraterrestrial or other beings in government or in the background pulling the strings?
Absolutely. It's absolute fact that you do. And they're not only in government, they're not only, giving different narratives and direction in that area, but you might find that you have extraterrestrial scientists over at Oxford working with our scientists. If you want to see an extraterrestrial, the best place that you can go and see one is in Venice Beach, or go walk down the street in Las Vegas. There are certain folks on this planet that know how to spot extraterrestrials very easily. In fact, certain technology exists to be able to scan people who have had real extraterrestrial contact. If you let's say leave this area, like if you're picked up by extraterrestrials, time is different for you. You could be gone, for hours, days, or years, and it might seem like you've been gone a minute. But there's certain things that can change in your atomic structure. There's certain things that will change around you. We've interacted with extraterrestrials so many times, and I can't tell you enough stories about not only extraterrestrials involved with government, but people I know that have encountered them, and they were shocked to find out that someone that they thought was just another human being was actually legitimately an extraterrestrial.
So are you saying the Queen's a reptile?
No, definitely not. Okay. I can tell you that
Okay.
I don't believe the Queen is at all, because I
don't either.
I have friends that are close to those folks, and I asked them outright. I said, Mike's met a good friend of mine that grew up with them, and I would tell you this: the Queen's a very smart lady. She's very, very sharp. My personal opinion is that I think they are part of an ancient bloodline that is probably, very, very advanced. But she's very sharp. And I'll tell you this, they have a very keen interest in extraterrestrials. Philip was obsessed with them.
Oh, yeah. Well, you remember Da Vinci, he was kind of like AWOL for a few years. And then his art changed from art to more scientific and experimental and designing and all that kind of stuff. So do you think he was taken aboard or inducted or taught or something by extraterrestrials?
Yeah, it's very much possible. A lot of these great minds that we have, they've been influenced, or they've had all kinds of experiences that are connected to. Some of these people are great gifts to humanity. They've come out with the ability to give us a lot of information. I would say that you look at somebody, and I'm not saying that he's an extraterrestrial, but look at someone like Elon Musk. You get Elon Musk, who's very influential in our progress right now. And whether you love what he's doing or you dislike it, no one can deny the innovation that's so next level that he's got, and the type of protection and advancements that he has. So, some folks like that are definitely getting help and relayed information, right?
Kind of like Tesla.
Certainly.
Yeah, exactly.
But what of the idea that if not extraterrestrials, what if it's ourselves, or time travelers from some point in the future?
Oh, yeah. Well, I definitely believe, we're all, in some cases, we're all from somewhere else. We've all been in other places. And I think that's why a lot of us can relate to that information, and it doesn't seem so foreign. All of you watching this at some point, you've had experiences in countless places. And so I don't know if you're referring to the gray extraterrestrial theory that the grays are us in the future. Are you making a slight reference to that as well?
Not directly. I mean, I could be talking about any type of time traveler. They could be, there's an interesting story that I've been telling recently in my presentations, basically of a hooded shadow figure that appeared and basically, gave information. This was actually quite a while ago, but I'm just now finding out about the story. When we still had the space shuttle to run some anti-gravity experiments up in space, which actually checked out and worked perfectly. But the idea for the experiment appeared to this one individual. And so it's, okay, was that a time traveler? Was it an ET? Kind of makes you question exactly who or what that was, but it showed up as this hooded shadow figure.
We have a disadvantage over them. Some of the groups out there, they have, I'm trying to think of the term is lineal subjugation. So what that means is this is a little complicated, so I won't go down this path, but this is as it's been explained to me by certain folks with knowledge of these things, is that when we look at something called quantum multiplicity and this lineal subjugation, this is the idea that right now, especially when we're being born, we have a certain configuration, a certain point of our reference of reality, okay? And all of us right now, we're focused on this point of reality right now. Let's just say if you have a highly advanced group that comes into the picture, that this linear space-time illusion that we have, we don't realize, for a lot of us, it's hard for us in our human minds to conceptualize that everything is currently happening in simultaneity. It's all happening at the same time. That's why when we talk about reincarnation, you can reincarnate 2,000 years back, or you can reincarnate in the future, or whatever point is for your best progress. But in many cases, we just have a split off of countless parallel universes that are all for the growth and evolution of your path. Well, the same is for extraterrestrials. They have a great advantage that to come into our world, some of them can influence us. If there's a certain agenda, they can go back in our history and they can inject certain things in events and realities to get us to talk about them. And you might say that there's different chefs in the kitchen that are bringing in certain influences. So yes, you could say it's a time traveling thing. They definitely have that advantage over us. They could come back into your childhood and see something, or give you something then that's going to influence you today if they thought you were a person of great importance. There's another type of extraterrestrial that has been talked about to me, which I've had conversations in private about, which is called an energetic chimeras. Now, you might say that this might be more of a holographic configuration that's attached to an intelligence, or it could be even an artificial intelligence, like synthetic intelligence, that's able to come up and greet you, have denser subatomic particles, and come up and greet you and shake your hand or hand you a document, then disappear before your eyes. And believe it or not, our own militaries have been experimenting with that sort of technology.
And we have a follow-up to that. This is from TFT Tarot for Today. Or are ETs highly evolved humans who have always been here?
Well, we're part of them. We're a great experiment that we're connected to them. So yeah, they have been here for a very long time. I mean, we have so many stories and biblical texts, and look at the Sumerians, and look at the stories that we receive. We are a great genetic experiment.
So you kind of talked a little bit about this, some of what you were bringing up throughout that. You were actually talking a little bit about that in the last episode of Mystery Teaching. So I think we can just kind of use this as a segue, since we got about 15 minutes left in the show, to talk about more about Mystery Teachings. I know we brought it up earlier, but this is your new show on Gaia.
Yeah, no, thank you again so much for bringing that up. Mm-hmm. And that last episode was the psychical experiences of souls. So yeah, we did talk about the ideas of transmigration, reincarnation, past lives, but also at the same time, in that episode, there were some other topics I wanted to tackle when it comes to this subject, because people talk about reincarnation, they talk about these sort of things, but I wanted to tackle it from a few different angles, bring in the scientific aspects to it, whether it's talking about Dr. Michael Newton and his work with clinical hypnotherapy. People have talked about that before, but Dr. Jim Tucker over at the University of Virginia had collected countless stories of children with past life memories. However, in some of these areas that we go into, people might not know that Pythagoras was a great believer in this. But Pythagoras, of course, he didn't believe in necessarily in the idea that we were being reborn as animals, but rather the animals were used to discuss the ideas of that's the way of the stars that you're being born under into that configuration. But one of the things I wanted to tackle was the cycles that we find of this in not only the animal kingdom, but whether you're talking about in plants and trees and rocks and minerals. And these all have their own sort of, you might say, group spirit, or they might have their own way of regenerating and having these certain cycles. And so, there's a very interesting way to look at this when we look at the fact that most people think it's just linear. They think, hey, I'm going to be reincarnated in the future, or I was in the past life. No, you can go in either direction when you want to be born.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I loved how you did talk about animal spirit and what happens with our fur friends. So and I mentioned it to Nicole this morning. I'd watched the episode late last night after she had gone to bed, and you had some photos there of squirrels.
I have to. I love squirrels.
Yeah, and I brought it up when we had a couple of our little furry squirrels out here munching away on some of the things that we leave out for them. So so I thought that was fascinating because a lot of time when we kind of get into that conversation about reincarnation, we're usually talking about humans, but you had also taken it from the viewpoint of the animal kingdom and plant life. You even talked about rocks and all kinds of different things. It was fascinating.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I wanted to incorporate that so we get the scientific, the esoteric, the teachings from many angles, including the religious angles, and exploring what karma and dharma are and the Sanskrit derivatives. However, the message that I want to convey with that doctrine or that belief in rebirth is that it never has been a thing where you're forced to come here. And this is one of the hardest places, the hardest schools that you can come to. Like as in the Buddhist doctrines and the teachings, they'd say that, life is a school, not a playground. It can be fun learning, but for the most part, we do have certain challenges here that can sometimes be difficult. And the one message again is that we might all make mistakes from time to time. We might fall down, but we got to get back up and keep going. And there's wonderful things to learn here, to grow and evolve from. And the biggest pushback I've heard with reincarnation from certain religious folks is they'd say, well, they don't want to be coming back here and born as like a snail or reborn as like a spider or something like that. And at the same time, they say, does this negate or does this get rid of the belief in heaven? And it doesn't, because on the spirit side, we do have a place that we go as an infinite consciousness where, we can explore the universe. We can decide whether we want to come here and how we want to do it. If we will come here at all, we don't have to.
Let me ask you a question real quick. On the topic of reincarnation, if one feels that they have been reincarnated, how do you know that's really a reincarnation and they're just not tapping into like the collective unconsciousness or consciousness and, reliving something?
Right, like a quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
That you're entangled into something. We've heard traditionally terms like Akashic records, which, you can go and review, but you got to say to yourself, does this resonate with me? Because there's no doubt that we do pick up these ideas around the world, that oftentimes when there's inventions made in the world, you'll have that there's more than 2 to 3 people, or at least, right, that are coming up with the same idea at the same time, right? Mm-hmm. So this is something that we also talk about on a later episode of Mystery Teachings. Oops. But with that, you're tapping into it. You just read it in my mind. But with that being said, we can look at the ideas as some people have made arguments against the concepts of, let's say we look at savants or children who are extremely brilliant or gifted with mathematics or music. Some will say, well, hey, couldn't these things just be like epigenetics or genetic memory, where you're just really good with something, you're just picking that up? But you know when something's unique to you, because your soul, Victoria, is a sum total of your embodiments. With Mike Ricksecker's ability to write these books and to do these things and to have these explorations, that's part of his genius. The Greeks believed that your genius, Victoria, or his, or whoever's watching this, they believed the genius was a separate being. It was a daemon. And I'm not saying demon, but daemon. We don't want to confuse those, that this was your personality, that that you later on form was coming and being generated out of these things really quickly. If you look at the secrets of the, let's say, a Venetian glassmaker or the master Stradivarius who gave us the violin, this isn't something he just did over one lifetime. This is something that was accumulated from, let's say, one lifetime. It was banging sticks together and elements and playing with chords, and came back the next life, where you get a brilliant genius like artist that comes into our world. Let's say, whether it's a Michael Jackson or whoever it is that comes in our world, and they're like, wow, look at all that energy they have as a musician. This was something they've done many times before.
Okay. Makes sense.
So it's a little long-winded of an answer, but
no, I was right there with you.
No, that was perfect. So 3 episodes out right now. How many can we expect?
9 episodes, and every Monday there will be a new episode. I'm very excited about the episodes that we will have coming out. I worked so hard on these to make sure they were jam-packed with the most interesting stuff that we could bring to the table. So we got an episode coming out that will be on decoding esoteric symbolism, and it's going to be really interesting, the different angles there. We got an Atlantis Lemuria episode, and on that one I didn't want to bring the old Atlantis stuff in there, so we wanted to tackle stuff like the real hidden esoteric symbolism of that. So there's a lot of secrets that we get from esoteric doctrines, or even Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, who talked about these giants, that these androgynous or hermaphrodite-like giants. And remember, the word hermaphrodite comes from Hermes and Aphrodite. And we have these double-headed giants that we talk about. Well, the interesting thing people might not know about is that in the Hebrew Midrash version of Genesis, it says exactly this, that we had this race of giants called the Adamic race, ADM. And when we go into this ancient race, this wasn't just like a man named Adam. That we say Adam was an Adamic race of people that it talked about. Blavatsky talked about this destruction of this continent that we call Lemuria, but long story short, that just comes from Dr. Sclater and the lemurs and near the area in the Indian Ocean of Madagascar. But this area of destruction we have witnessed came out of these volcanic destruction, as she was a great psychic, as you guys know. The one thing that's really interesting about that is if we start taking these hidden pieces of the puzzle, we start to see secrets of the immortality and regeneration that we find in our mysteries. And I really want to give you a quick example of that if we have time as we tick down the clock. Have you guys ever looked at the history or the mythology of, let's say, the month January on our calendar?
Oh, Janus?
Right. Janus. Janus is... Yeah, Janus is the god that looked in both directions, looking into the past and looking into the future, right?
Right.
So keep this in mind, that if you look into the Egyptian mysteries, if you look at, let's say, the serpents that are facing away from each other, look into the 33rd degree of Freemasonry with the regeneration of the phoenix or the eagle that's looking at the two heads in two directions, so the 33rd degree insignia of the Scottish Rite. Look at the insignias in many areas of Europe and around the world. You'll see that if the serpents or the birds or the phoenixes or whatever that is put in their place is facing inwards, this is the seeking of immortality. If it's facing outwards, this is the attainment of immortality and regeneration. These groups have encoded these ancient teachings from these places. So bringing that type of idea in there, there's so much that we can extract. And lastly, on the season, you can expect stuff on quantum physics and spirituality, to the life of Pythagoras and his teachings. We have the solar mysteries, astrotheology, that kind of stuff that is really exciting to explore.
Wow. Fantastic. definitely looking forward to it. So, yeah, check it out, Gaia.com. And right now, the 3 episodes are available. And like Johnny said, every Monday, a new one drops, and there will be 9. So definitely looking forward to the rest of the series, my friend.
Thank you.
You also,
so much.
Yeah, absolutely. You also have some other events coming up here, like more tours of Egypt.
Yes. Thank you so much for bringing that up. And we'd love to get you back out there, Mike, one of these days. I know you're going to be doing a tour soon, too. But I'd love to get on some more tours. So we'll have to do an Alaska Triangle tour as well. But I was going to say,
about that, yeah.
That would be very exciting. This tour is really exciting. We got Jimmy Church there. We got Billy Carson. We got myself. We got Zuzana, of course, the one and only, the fabulous Muhammad Ibrahim, who is a world-class Egyptologist, hieroglyphics expert. This is going to be an exciting tour to bring these, these kind of teachings out, and we got some very exciting surprises there.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you have one directly after that, too.
Correct.
Yeah, now, Immortal Light tour.
Yes. Now, it does have its advantages being out here in Europe, because it's a lot shorter of a flight now these days for me to get over there. Right. So I can do a back-to-back. But this tour is a little different. This is a lot different than the tour with Billy Carson and Jimmy Church, whereas, Jimmy and Billy are going to have different ways of focusing in on the megalithic stuff, which Jimmy really likes. And of course, Billy likes, the ideas of the Emerald Tablet. On this tour, Immortal Light, we have some very interesting folks. First of all, we have Paul Elder, who is the instructor on remote viewing for the Monroe Institute, using military-grade remote viewing protocols to remote view the ancient past and to bring this stuff out. We have my friend Hank Kracher. Everybody here is a friend, of course, but he is a professor, and he is a Masonic and esoteric scholar, and he's got a lot of profound ideas on immortality, regeneration, alchemy, ancient Egypt. Of course, we can say the same thing about Timothy Hogan. If you guys don't know his work, he's a renowned esoteric Masonic author and speaker on also the Templar Knights, Egypt, the mysteries. He's been to Egypt with Robert Bauval, doing incredible things. Muhammad Ibrahim, you guys already know, amazing at what he does. We got J.P. Haig, who's also, again, a dear friend, but also a lawyer, a researcher, and an expert on the Egyptian mysteries. And Zuzana and myself, as you guys know, esoteric researchers that are digging into these things. But again, thank you so much for allowing me to plug those and get those out. I mean, these are exciting times when we can delve into the mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would love to go on those tours with you, Johnny.
You should. You should come.
We have Ireland and everything going on next year, and then Mohammed and I are put one together as well. So
very exciting.
Mohammed is like the perfect guide for doing those.
He is, and I want to say, when you do put a tour together for Egypt, I just want to give you a plug that I'm so impressed by Mike's ability to dig into things. He's very well versed on what these things, where they come from. He's got a great respect from these areas. His mind is brilliant. The way that he captivates people, bring them in. You're a natural leader at it, and I just think that's great too. I'm excited for your Ireland tour. When are the dates on the Ireland? You're sold out on your Ireland tour, aren't you?
Well, we actually had a couple of openings pop up. I think there's only like 2 or 3 left now, but
which is normal.
There was because there was like a group of 5 or 6 that stepped out, but we've been filling it back in. But that's July 1st through the 9th next year.
That's amazing. Congratulations, and if you guys,
and Victoria's
get a
coming
chance,
with us.
Get out to Ireland and come with Mike. Get out to Ireland. Sign up for those couple spaces they just freed up. Right now, it's interesting that some people, that unfortunately, came out at the last minute when we were going to Egypt with our group there, and they said, hey, we're backing out due to the pandemic. We think that the whole place is going to be shut down due to the pandemic. You never know in this decade where we're at when you get. What opportunity you have to travel. And if you get the opportunity, you could be looking back, as some people wrote us after, said, man, I wish I would have gone with you guys. The world didn't shut down. People were able to travel there. And it turns out, it was great being able to get access to a lot of places that weren't crowded,
It was. And look at this. We had a great time. We're all having, there's you and Muhammad. But look at the group. We're all having a good time.
It is. I like that one of you, me, and Muhammad. That's a great picture.
Oh, I know. It's great. It's great.
You guys. Yeah, there we are with Mike. You guys, it was so much fun. It was a wonderful adventure.
Didn't you say Muhammad wanted to go with us? He wanted to go to Ireland?
Yeah, he had inquired about that when it was going to be this year. So right. I don't know if he's looked into it again for 2022, but yeah, when it was supposed to be this year, 2021, he was asking me some questions about the tour. So he definitely
would love
interested.
Yeah. You should bring him there. He really wants to come to Europe, and of course, I think that's the real question that he's trying to figure out. What their requirements are. I just want people to know too that it's not that bad to travel these days. There's a lot of people wondering, how difficult is it to travel, especially in Europe. You get off a plane somewhere and nobody checks anything. Nowadays they've eliminated all the checks. You get off the plane, get your luggage, and go. And it's
in Egypt
easy.
Was a piece of cake.
Yeah, Egypt, they don't care. You just get off the plane and they said, "Did you get your test?" And you say, I did, Habibi, and it's good. And you just keep going. So you're good to go. Yeah. And really, people don't talk about COVID there. And if you do see somebody that had a mask or something in like a place, it's like down over here, life is normal. I think they've been punished a little bit, in the travel restrictions over the last year because they were kind of slow to the draw in the immunization program. But, everyone there kind of had this feeling that, hey, they already had it. And they've been having plagues for 2,000 years. So they were just like, let's go.
Yeah, I think the only place that they really gave us, they were really honest about masks was down in the museum with the royal mummies. Because when we were upstairs in just the regular gallery, we were taking our masks off and nobody was really saying much. But it was down with the royal mummies they were giving us a hard time.
Do you think it was to protect you or to protect the mummy?
Exactly. I was in Italy last week or a weekend ago or so, and we were down in Rome and Florence, and we were there. Everyone is so tired of it that even in the Vatican, let's say you go into there, the officials that are enforcing the mask, they're wearing their mask right around here. And even the mask people are wearing their nose. I'm just looking at them going like, what is the point of wearing the mask if nobody is properly wearing it? If you're wearing your mask right here, why have it? So they said basically it just looks good on the tourism requirements.
Yeah. That's how we wear ours. We're required to wear them, but they're under the chin. So technically,
Yeah, I mean, I respect people's concerns with it out there, but I mean, I had COVID before, and I have the little recovered status, and I had it. And to me, I tell people I defeated it with red wine and Netflix. There you go. It was the worst part. You lose your smell and taste for a little while, but for the most part, most folks, push through it. And so I look forward to the future when we can move past this part of our history.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Well, we need to wrap it up, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. You're out there in Hungary, 6 hours ahead of me, 7 hours ahead of Victoria. And so I know it's super late at night there for you, but we really do appreciate it. And, I can't wait till we see you again because it seems like it's already been too long.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate being here. And it's always great to be on the edge of the rabbit hole. But I will say this, I'd love to see you again very, very soon. And I wish both of you and all the viewers and listeners just the most amazing, beautiful night and weekend. And we'll hopefully see you on another episode very soon.
Yes. Thank you for finally answering my questions. Been plaguing me my whole life.
Yeah, her questions at the beginning of the show was, who mows the lawns up at Machu Picchu? I said,
these are hard questions.
No, you got to ask him.
All right. Have a great night, my friend. Get some good rest.
Bye, Johnny.
All right. Have a great night.
Talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Jonny Enoch. Yeah, love him.
He's great.
He is, at the very beginning of the show, I called him my cheeky Moravian brother. And, we discovered that we do actually, our families have connections through the Moravian church like 150 years ago. They were missionaries down in the Caribbean islands.
Does that mean I'm related to Johnny too, if I'm related to you? Take a detour?
I think I have to look up the dates because I think the intermarriage with the Grant clan was after that, but I'll have to look up the dates.
Okay. I'm just going to go with yes.
Yeah, so there you go.
we have squirrels, you know.
Yeah. It's well, it's not a familial blood relationship there with Johnny, like you and I are cousins. It is that our families knew each other back then, traveled with each other, were missionaries together.
Oh, okay. Do people know that we're related? They do now, right?
If they didn't before, they do now. So, yeah. So it was some time ago now that you and I discovered we're actually distant cousins.
It's last year, wasn't it?
Sometime last year, I think. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. Appreciate everybody joining us for the, the early broadcast of the show. I know our numbers, as far as our typical viewers, were a little bit down for the live broadcast because, it's out of the norm and people just usually show up at 9:30 Eastern. So I really do appreciate those that got the message and showed up. So, Johnny's fantastic. So I also do want to quickly mention if you didn't see the posts here earlier today, and I guess it would have been a few days ago, the documentary Who Saw the Men in Black by Darcy Weir is now available. So you can get it on Apple TV, Amazon, it's on Vudu, a lot of different platforms. So you can check that out. I'm in several minutes of it, so I back and forth with Richard Dolan telling the Albert K. Bender story, and then some of my NSA background is told later on. So
did you admit finally you're a man in black?
Well, I talked to I didn't go so far as that, but I kind of described the protocol that we had to take when we went off site.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. I know what I'm doing tonight.
There you go. Check it out. So, but yeah, I needed to plug that. So. And
you're doing something else tonight, right?
Yes.
While I'm grocery shopping.
Fade to Black with Jimmy Church is later this evening. So that is 10 p.m. Eastern. So 7 p.m. Pacific. I guess it would be 9 your time, Victoria.
Time is irrelevant here. I mean, I haven't changed the clocks yet, so I don't know.
And what's it called again? Who Saw the Men in Black? So
yes.
Let me I could load up the artwork real quick for you so that you guys will recognize it.
It looks good. Well, this weekend I had a chance to chat with the guys from the Shadow Initiative. Ooh.
Oh,
so
very cool.
That was fun. They were fun. They're fun. It's Rick Hale, Stephen Lancaster.
Okay, there you go. Who Saw the Men in Black? So look for that.
That looks good.
Yeah. Whoever did the artwork for that did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
That really boom, that stands out.
Oh yeah.
So, all right. So let's go ahead and get to the shout outs. And basically on this note, this is why I wanted to bring it up, because our show with Johnny was very different, but because this is out, our Connecting the Universe interactive class tomorrow is going to be about government conspiracies. We'll get into a little bit about the Men in Black. We'll also talk about HAARP up in Alaska, so we'll get onto some Alaska Triangle topics as well. And you probably heard me mention that late tomorrow evening, we'll be on Coast to Coast with George Norrie, so we'll be talking Alaska Triangle. For that, we'll probably talk HAARP. We're probably going to be talking about HAARP this evening with Jimmy, too. He likes the conspiracy theories, so. Yeah, I'll be on the lookout for all that stuff. So.
And when do you sleep? Well, you work too, right? You have a job, right?
I have a day job, yeah. I have that day job that gets in the way of everything else that I actually enjoy doing.
Right?
Right.
Just going to be financially abundant so I can play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, it's we say play, but it's work, but a work that I enjoy doing.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's increasing your brain power. That used
definitely.
To be a Reader's Digest thing. Increase your brain power, remember? Did you ever read the Reader's Digest when you were a kid?
There you go. Yeah, my mom subscribed to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Who's didn't, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. So let's get to the participants tab here. Betty Lange, grand old folks. Thank you, Betty, for joining us this evening. There's Bill Prack. Thank you as well, one of our keepers of the Connected Universe there. Haunted Road Media's Fairy Queen, Diane Hilbert. There's also Goodell Sharp. Thanks for joining us tonight. Miguel M., thank you for joining us this evening. Nick Graves, thank you as always. And Thayer, thanks for joining us tonight. So now we have to go back and scroll through and see who really did join us. Because of the off time, I wonder, hey, Adam Tillery, are you lurking out there? He may not have.
I thought about that.
I don't know.
He has no excuse now.
I don't know. Right. Need to thank Alina, our chat moderator, for moderating the chat.
TFT Tarot.
TFT Tarot for today. Yeah. Thank you as always. Let's see. There was NA. Thanks for joining us once again. Scroll through here a bit more. Mr. Cumin, thank you. Oh, Andrew Cox. Andrew and his trucking gnomes. Great to see Andrew down there this evening. Flawed Beauty, thanks for joining us tonight. Scroll a little bit. Like I said, I know that it was a little sparse this evening because of the different time. Of course, Nicole was in earlier. I know she had some work to get to, so I think she had to leave at some point. Eva Gellert was here tonight. Good to see you, Eva. Been a little while. Michelle King early on. So, all right.
It's a good group.
I think that will, good group. I think that'll do it for now. So, all right, everybody. For those that are part of the Connected Universe, please join us, of course, for our regularly scheduled interactive class tomorrow night, Wednesday, 8 p.m. ConnectedUniversePortal.com for those that are not yet members of the Connected Universe. So, join. You want to do it. Yeah.
Can you get a tax write-off? Just kidding. No.
I mean,
I'm kidding.
If you could work it into some sort of business expense, sure, why not?
Okay.
I mean, it's you're learning, right? So if it's applicable to whatever you're doing, it's education. Yep.
It's applicable. Really, I'm only drinking water. Applicable socioeconomical sesquicentennial. It only applies to life. How about that?
There you go.
That was a hard one.
All right. So, and then next week, let me.
Yes. I know who it is.
I wasn't tossing up these. I didn't toss up the banners yet. So there's the link for Connected Universe, ConnectedUniversePortal.com. And then our guest for next week, the always amazing and beautiful Alexandra Holzer is going to be with us. So it'd be great to have Alex back.
Oh, yeah.
So, yep.
I love her stories.
Oh, yeah.
Full of energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, love Alex. And I'm very honored to be publishing a book for her next year.
Really?
I am, yes. It's actually a fiction piece.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, congratulations to both of you.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. Yeah, I haven't made the formal announcement yet for Haunted Road Media Publishing, but I'm only taking on a couple of authors next year. Just a couple. So, oh, you want to be an author?
I have ideas.
You have ideas, okay.
I have ideas. Not coloring books. Yeah. Ones with words this time.
Oh, ones with words.
Yeah.
Well, for next year, I'm only taking on a couple, and those spots are pretty much already accounted for. So,
what if I slip you some jalapeno pecans?
Those are pretty good.
I haven't tried them yet, but they're my list.
You'll have to get some for the holidays.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. Yeah.
Spice up your holidays, yeah.
With spicy pecans.
With spicy pecans, yeah. All right, everybody. You have a great night. We will see you, some of you tomorrow, hopefully more than not. And, of course, we'll see everybody next week as well. So have a great night.